Hello, hello! Peace Packs here, and we're back with our second commander deck from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So, let's get started. Okay. We got a false start. Okay, got it. Oh, no witty phrase on this one. Okay. That's a thing. Alright. Got 2 mini tokens. They've cut us down to only 6 counters now. It's a thing. Deck. Little insert. The envelope of goodness. We have our collector booster sample pack. We will be opening these in their own video. So we should have 16. We've got a themed deck box with an unthemed spin down, or life dial, I guess. Right. This is Sultai Outlaws? Sultai Grand Larceny. Okay. And our little insert. One side we've got an overview of the deck. Could have just seen the name there. Overview of commander rules. Some ads. And then a little bio on Face Commander and a portrait of Face Commander. Alright. We got that done. Can pull in to see the star of the show. There we go. All right. Our deck. Gaunty's back. Back again. Excuse me. Sorry about that. All right. So we got our Face Commander, Gaunty, Kenny Acquisitioner. So, Gaunty is back from Kaladesh. Not sure what's going on there, but 2 black, green, blue for a 5/5 legendary Aetherborn Rogue. Spells you cast but don't own cost 1 less to cast. Ooh. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, look at the top card of that player's library, then exile it face down. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Very nice. Plays especially well with things like Mana Drain, which happens to also be one of the off-the-press, aka breaking news cards in this set. So, something to consider. Then we have Felix 5 boots. 2 black, green, blue for 5/4. Legendary Ooze Rogue. Not sure how an Ooze can go rogue, but you know. Menace, Ward 2. If a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Sorry, I've got one heck of a tickle in my throat today. Thieving Skydiver. Well, that's a good one. Originally from Zendikar Rising, I think. 1 in a blue for 2/1 Merfolk Rogue with Kicker X. X cannot be 0. Flying. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, gain control of target artifact with mana cost X or less. If that artifact is an equipment, attach it to Thieving Skydiver. Everything seems washed out today. Sage of the Beyond. 5 blue for a 5/5 Spirit Giant. Flying. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast. Foretell. 4 and a blue. During your turn, you may pay 2 and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost. Ghostly Pilferer. I believe this may actually be in standard right now. 1 and a blue for a 2/1 Spirit Rogue. Whenever it becomes untapped, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Whenever an opponent casts a spell from anywhere other than anywhere other than their hand, draw a card. Discard a card. Ghostly Pilferer can't be blocked this turn. Diluvian Primordial. 5 blue for 5/5 Avatar, flying. When it enters the battlefield, for each opponent, you may cast up to 1 target instant or sorcery card from that player's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If a spell cast this way would be put into a graveyard, exile it instead. Stolen Goods. 3 and a blue, sorcery. Wait. Well, that's actually really neat with blink spells, now that I see it. Stolen Goods, 3 and a blue, sorcery. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile a non-land card. Until end of turn, you may cast that card without paying its mana cost. That's pretty neat. Might be useful against a couple of strategies in Legacy. Curse of the Swine. X blue, sorcery. This is one of the few ways for blue to actually exile creatures, which is pretty cool. Exile X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, its controller creates a 2/2 green boar creature token. Dazzling Sphinx. 3 blue for a 4/5 Sphinx with flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery. They cast that card without paying its mana costs. Then that player puts the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of their library in a random order. Okay. Arcane Heist. 2 blue, sorcery. You may cast target instant or sorcery card from an opponent's graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that spell would be put into their graveyard, exile it instead, and then has Cipher. Then you may exile this spell card encoded on a creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player, its controller may cast a copy of the encoded card without paying its mana cost. Very, very fun effect. Doesn't see much play, but could be good. Smirking Spelljacker. 4 and a blue for a 3/3 Djinn Wizard Rogue. Okay, that's a whole lot. Flash. Flying. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile target spell an opponent controls. Whenever it attacks, if a card is exiled this way, whenever it attacks, if a card is exiled with it, you may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost. Mind's Dilation. 5 blue, enchantment. Whenever an opponent casts their first spell each turn, that player exiles the top card of their library. If it's a non-land card, you may cast it without paying its mana cost. That's fun. Gonti, Lord of Luxury. Hey, it's the original Gonti. Original flavor. 2 black for 2/3 legendary Aetherborn Rogue with Death Touch. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of that library in a random order. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Predator's Hour. 1 and a black sorcery. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain menace, and whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library face down. You may look at that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast that spell. Breathstealer Dragon. Let's see, 5 black for a 6/6 Dragon Horror with flying. At the beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards. We're just going to call this Gontiing a card. Because I'm sure I'm going to have to read this a bajillion times in this deck. Whenever a non-land permanent an opponent owns enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. Ooh, that's nasty. Cunning Rhetoric. 2 and a black enchantment. Whenever an opponent attacks you and or one or more planeswalkers you control, Gonti the top card of their library. We're just going to say Gontiing it, because that's so much simpler. Thieving Amalgam. 5 black for 6/7 Ape Snake. It's an ape snake. It is an ape snake. That is a creature type, if I ever saw one. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may manifest the top card of that player's library. Put it on the battlefield face down as a 2/2 creature. Turn it face up at any time for its mana cost if it's a creature card. Whenever a creature you control but don't own dies, its owner loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. Very nice. Orochi Soulweaver. 5 and a black for a 5/4 Snake Ninja Rogue with Ninjutsu, 3 and a black. So 3 and a black, return an unblocked attacker you control to your hand. Put this card onto the battlefield from your hand, tapped and attacking. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and manifest the top card of that player's library. That's pretty sweet. Thieving Varmint. 1 and a black for a 2/1 Varmint with Death Touch and Lifelink. Tap, pay 1 life. Add 2 mana of any one color. Spend this only to cast spells you don't own. That's pretty slick. Heartless Conscription. 6 black sorcery. Exile all creatures. For each card exiled this way, you may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. You can Gonti those cards. Then you exile Heartless Conscription. Very cool. Nashi, Moonsage's Scion. This is currently standard legal, if I remember correctly. Pretty sure this is from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. But 1 black for a 3/2 legendary Ninja Rat. A Rat Ninja with Ninjutsu, 3 and a black. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until end of turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than paying its mana cost. Okay. A Baleful Mastery. 3 and a black, instant. You may pay 1 and a black. Second. Man, I've got a crazy tickle going on in my throat today. You may pay 1 and a black rather than pay this spell's mana cost. If the 1 and a black cost was paid, an opponent draws a card. Exile target creature or planeswalker. I wonder, do you get to choose which opponent? Interesting. Orin Frostfang. 3 green for 2/6 snow creature snake. Attacking creatures you control have Death Touch. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it turns all your creatures into Orin Vipers, basically. Savvy Trader. 3 and a green for a 3/3 human citizen. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile target permanent card from your graveyard. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 1 less to cast. Ooh, that's pretty cool. Tower Winder. This one's made a bit of a splash on Twitter. 1 and a green for a 1/1 creature snake with reach and Death Touch. Whenever it enters the battlefield, search your library and or graveyard for a card named Command Tower. Oh, reveal it, put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle. Kazur, Ruthless Stalker. 3 and a green for 3/3 legendary human warrior. Partner with Ukima, Stalking Shadow. When this enters the battlefield, target player may put Ukima into their hand from their library, then shuffle. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. Right, Silent Blade Oni, 3 blue, black. For a 6/5 Demon Ninja with ninjutsu, 4 blue-black. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at that player's hand. You may cast a spell from among those cards without paying its mana cost. Hostage Taker, and I believe this is the fixed version. Yes, it is. It says another. This had to be emergency errated, because it did not originally say another on it. But Hostage Taker, 2 blue-black for 2/3 Human Pirate. Whenever it enters the battlefield, exile another target creature or artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Yeah, you used to be able to just drop this and immediately, if there weren't any other creatures, you would just draw the game. But you could generate infinite ETB triggers if there was another one. Edric, Spymaster of Trest. This card used to be the bee's knees, both in Commander and in Legacy, but that days long past. 1 green-blue for 2/2 Legendary Elf Rogue. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one or more of your opponents, its controller may draw a card. Fallen Shinobi with new art. 3 blue-black for 5/4 Zombie Ninja Ninjutsu. 2 blue-black. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, that player exiles the top 2 cards of their library. Until end of turn, you may play those cards without paying their mana costs. Also, big card in Vintage Cube. Cold Eyes Selkie. 1 and then 2 hybrid Simic for a 1/1 Merfolk Rogue with Island Walk. Can't be blocked as long as defending player controls an island. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw that many cards. Siphon Insight, which is currently in Standard, and will be until Bloomburrow comes out. But blue-black, for an instant, look at the top 2 cards of target opponent's library. Exile one of them face down and put the other on the bottom of their library, or of that library. You may play the exiled card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana or mana of any color to cast that spell, and then flashback 1 blue-black. Very nice. Fun card, too. Extract Brain. X blue-black sorcery. Target opponent chooses X cards from their hand. Look at those cards. You may cast a spell from among them without paying its mana cost. Oh, that's a little less exciting than what I thought. Shadow Mage Infiltrator. This was a World Champion card, if I remember correctly. Also just fun card back in the day. But 1 blue-black for a 1/3 Human Wizard with Fear. Can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and or black creatures. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may draw a card. Baleful Strix. Still a pretty good card. But blue-black for a 1/1 artifact creature bird. Flying and death touch. When it enters the battlefield, draw a card. A little less good now that, Orcish Bowmasters is all over the place, but still a good card. Culling Ritual. 2 black-green sorcery. Destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. Thief of Sanity, another fun one that sees play in Vintage Cube. 1 blue-black for 2/2 Spectre with Flying. When it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 3 cards of that player's library, exile one of them face down. Put the rest into their graveyard. So, a little bit of a divergence there. You may cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. Villainous Wealth. This is the card that I thought of when I saw the name of this deck. X, black, green, blue, sorcery. Target opponent exiles the top X cards of their library. You may cast any number of spells with mana cost X or less from among them without paying their mana cost. Very fun. Why play with my deck when I can play with yours? The Mimeoplasm. 2 black, blue, green for a 0/0 legendary ooze. As it enters the battlefield, you may exile 2 creature cards from graveyards. If you do, it enters the battlefield as a copy of one of those creatures with a number of additional +1/+1 counters on it equal to the power of the other card. Very nice. Plasm Capture. Green, green, blue, blue, instant, counter target spell. At the beginning of your next pre-combat main phase, add X mana in any combination of colors where X is that spell's mana value. Huh. So it's a less good Simic mana drain. Neat. Ikima, Stalking Shadow. 1 blue-black for 2/2, legendary Whale Wolf. Whale. Partner with Kazir, Ruthless Stalker. Ikima, Stalking Shadow, can't be blocked. Whenever it leaves the battlefield, it deals X damage to target player, and you gain X life, where X is its power. Ooh, that is neat. I want to find a way to just blink that over and over again. Blade Griff Prototype. 5 mana, 3/2, artifact creature Griffin with flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. What? Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. Oh, okay. That's a politics card. Chaos Wand. Oh, this was so much fun. 3 mana artifact. 4, tap. Target opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card. You may cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then put the exiled cards that weren't cast this way on the bottom of that library in a random order. So every time this has been legal and standard, I have put this as either a 1 or 2 of in my control decks, just because it is so much fun to mess with people with this card. And you can get a lot of information that way. Dream Thief's Bandana. 2 mana artifact equipment. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to a player, Gonti the top card of their library. Equip 1. Okay, nice. Oblivion. Wow. Okay. Oblivion Sower. 6 mana, 5/8, Eldrazi. Whenever you cast a spell, target opponent exiles the top 4 cards of their library. Then you may put any number of land cards that player owns from exile into the battlefield under your control. So this can be very silly, especially if you're on a exiling strategy. Overflowing Basin. Filters 1 and 2 green-blue. I believe this is one of the new ones that they've added. I don't think this is in the original Odyssey cycle. Drowned Catacomb. It's one of the fast lands. Enters buddy lands rather. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control an island or swamp. Tap for a blue or black. Temple of Deceit. Enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters, scry 1. Tap for a blue or black. So it's a temple. Temple of Malady, same thing, but for black-green. Darkwater Catacombs. This is one of the ones that was originally printed. I believe it was all the ally colors originally. But filters a colorless into a generic into a blue or black. Fetid Pools, Island Swamp, so this can be fetched with good fetches. Enters tapped, cycles for 2, taps for blue or black. Yavimaya Coast. Very nice. This is currently legal and standard and will be for the next year. So, something to consider. But taps for colorless, and then you can tap for a green or a blue, and it deals 1 damage to you. Generally known as a pain land. Viridescent Bog. Filters into 1 into black-green. Another one that I believe was printed exclusively for this. Exotic Orchard. Tap and 1 mana of any color that a land an opponent controls could produce. Hey, Underground River, another pain. This is the blue-black pain land. Very nice that that was put in here. Woodland Cemetery. Enters tapped unless you control a swamp or forest. Tap for a green or a black. Sunken Hollow, another island swamp. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or more basics. Very nice. Temple of Mystery, it's the green-blue temple. Hinterland Harbor. Oh, they put all 3 in here. It's the buddy land for green-blue. Darkslick Shores. Enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 2 or fewer other lands. This is also in standard at the moment. This is what's known as a fast land. And then taps for a blue or a black. Flooded Grove. Tap for a colorless, and then you can filter a green or a blue into either green-green, green-blue, or blue-blue. Twilight Mire, same thing for green and black. Land of War Wastes. Very nice. We have all 3 pain lands. We have the Sultai in here. It's the green-black pain land. Really good lands in this cycle of commander decks, which is kind of surprising. Slitherblade. For a blue, you get a 1/2 Naga Rogue. Can't be blocked. Whirler Rogue. 2 blue for 2/2 Human Rogue Artificer. When it enters the battlefield, create 2 1/1 colorless slapped or artifact creature tokens with flying. Tap 2 untapped artifacts you control. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. This was a great way of closing out games when it was in standard last. Triton Shorestalker. It's for a blue, you get a 1/1 Merfolk Rogue that can't be blocked. So a strictly worse version of Slitherblade, except this is a Merfolk. Which means it has slightly better typing. Feed the Swarm, one of black's only ways of getting rid of enchantments. 1 in a black, sorcery, destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's mana value. Silhana Ledgewalker. This has traditionally been used in Boggles. It is one of the original Boggles, or Boggle creatures, I guess. And when this was printed, Hexproof was not a keyword yet. This was originally a Guild Pact, I believe. But 1 in a green for a 1/1 Elf Rogue with Hexproof, and it can't be blocked except by creatures with flying. Rampant Growth. 1 in a green, sorcery, it's where we get the term ramp from. Search the library for a basic land, put it on the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. Kadama's Reach. It's the slightly better version of Cultivate. But for 2 in a green, you get a sorcery Arcane, which means you can splice onto it, which is why it's better than Cultivate. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards. Reveal those cards, put 1 on the battlefield tapped and the other into your hand, then shuffle. You know, it's only slightly better than Cultivate. Void Attendant. 2 in a green for a 2/3 Eldrazi Processor with the Void. This card has no color. 1 in a green, put a card an opponent owns from exile into that player's graveyard. Create a 1/1 colorless Eldrazi Scion creature token that has sacrifice this creature, add a colorless. Three Visits. This is the this was originally in Portal 3 Kingdoms, but it's a functional copy of Nature's Lore. For 1 in a green sorcery, search your library for a forest, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Or for a forest card. So this can grab duels. Oddly enough, I noticed that they didn't put any forest duels in here. So that's a thing. Putrefy. 1 green black instant, destroy target artifact or creature. It can't be regenerated. Trigon Predator. God, I used to love this card so much. When this was in standard originally, I just shoved this into every deck that I could. But 1 green blue for a 2/3 creature, or for a 2/3 beast with flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may destroy a target artifact or enchantment that player controls. Doc Arlock, Grizzled Genius. This is in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, the standard set. But green-blue for a 2/3 legendary bear druid. Spells you cast from your graveyard or from exile cost 2 less to cast. Plotting cards from your hand cost 2 less. It is very, very good and limited. Arcane Signet, 2 mana rock, taps for your commander's color identity. You all know what it does by now. Darksteel Ingot, indestructible, 3 mana rock that taps for 1 of any color. Belwar Stone, 2 mana artifact that taps for 1 of anything that a land your opponent controls could produce. So it's Exotic Orchard, but stapled onto an artifact. Prismatic Lens, 2 mana artifact, taps for colorless, and then filters a colorless into 1 of any color, or a generic into 1 of any color. Soul Ring, 1 mana artifact that taps for 2. Command Tower, taps for commander's color identity. Reliquary Tower, you have no maximum hand size, taps for colorless. Access Tunnel, it's the worst version of Rogue's Passage. Taps for colorless, and then 3 tap target creature with power 3 or less can't be blocked this turn. In your Aqueduct, it is the black-blue Karu, or Bounce Land is another word for it. Enters the battlefield tapped. Whenever it enters, return a land you control to its owner's hand. Opulent Palace, it is the Sultai Wedgeland. Enters tapped, and then you can tap it for black, green, or blue. Now we're to our basics. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 islands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 swamps. Oh, they put far less lands in this one than the other deck. And then 1, 2, 3, 4 forests. Now we have our tokens. We have 2 Thopters, or 2/2/1, or 2 1/1 flying artifact Thopters. One is a manifest, the other is a treasure on the back. We have 3 boars that are 2/2 green creatures. 2 of them are treasures, 1 of them is manifest. Then we have some Eldrazi Scions. These are the 1/1 flavor of it. They also come in a 0/1 option. 1 of them is a manifest, the other is a treasure. Now we have these really cool bounty cards that I'm almost willing to play some Commander to try these out, because this just kind of seems neat. But we have the Outsider. At the beginning of your end step, if you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand this turn, collect your reward. The rewards on all these are the same. So you, level 1, create a treasure token. 2, create 2 treasure tokens. 3, 2 treasure tokens or draw a card. And then 4, which is the max, create 2 treasure tokens and draw a card. And there's some, rules for these. So before the game, shuffle at least 6 unique bounty cards into a face-down pile. At the starting player's 3rd turn, or as the starting player's 3rd turn begins, reveal the top bounty card. Claim the revealed bounty card during your turn and collect your reward. As each turn begins, if no bounty is being offered, reveal the next one. If the pile is empty, shuffle all claimed bounties to the restock, or to restock. The bounty when unclaimed last turn, increase its reward to the next level. Alright, our second one, Gora, Tash, and Silas. At the beginning of your end step, if all opponents were dealt combat damage this turn, collect your reward. Yep, same reward on all of them. Frankie the Fang. At the beginning of your end step, if the player with the most life, or tied for the most life, as the turn began, was dealt combat damage this turn, collect your reward. And then we have our turn order reminder and our formats reminder. Very nice. Alright. Well, thank you for joining me on this adventure to Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I'm going to have to remember or I'm going to have to refresh on the name of this again. What is the name of this deck? With Grand Larceny. And that should not be that hard to remember. As always, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff for the algorithm. And until next time, stay awesome. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.